Hello and welcome to Solely Singleton Season 14, Episode 7. I'm your host, Brad. This is my co-hosts, Eric.
How's it going?
And the other one.
Fucking finally.
Alright. This is a set of Magic the Gathering, and we have takes, some of which are hot.
Yeah.
Boy, oh
Wow.
boy. This sure is going to be a
You
set.
sound like Eric introducing the
Capenna.
episode right now.
New Capenna is going to go down in history as a set.
Of Magic the Gathering.
I'm not sure about that part. I didn't want to put it in there.
You're giving him too much credit.
That's fair. That's fair.
This set
Alright.
is, in my opinion, exactly what we've been asking for a long time, which is shorter hot takes.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's in a wrong. The reasoning on it isn't good.
Well, you weren't
So let's-
specific.
I know, the monkey paw curled.
Yep.
Let's jump into this thing. So without any further ado, I just wanted to say that part, but let's jump into this.
Sounds good.
All right, let's have a forward. Let's talk about this for a moment. The set, the design of this episode, and all that stuff. This episode is only containing cards from New Capenna. New Capenna's Commander set is like half spoiled at the recording of this and looks really good.
Yeah.
We'll be discussing that next week, Friday, on our live episode with the patrons, and you'll all hear it next week when it comes out. Before we go into this, the hot takes is pretty short. There's not that much to talk about. There are actually more cards for Peasant and Pauper than for anywhere else. There are some interesting commons and uncommons in general. Like even for I'll be excited to talk about a couple of them. The set's not a zero. There are things that I like in it. So I don't want to say this is absolutely trash. You should skip it and buy nothing. There are glowing, nice little trinkets throughout. It's just there's a lot of trash and just the worst fucking art direction. Oh my god.
Jesus Christ.
And I feel like that's something that people not from the area are going to be like, I don't get it. I like this random art. I've never seen it before. Art Déco is like Detroit's way of pretending that it has a history that's not hot trash.
Yeah.
Art Déco is the worst fucking art style imaginable, and I associate it with cheap garbage.
I can enjoy it for what it is sometimes, but doesn't have a place here. I can enjoy the art. It's fine for me, but no, not here. That was a wrong decision for whoever's in charge of that.
All right, so I guess let's get into this.
All right. We're going to start off with a card for myself here. This is Citizen's Crowbar, which is not a gun. This is an artifact equipment. It costs 1 and a white to cast and 2 to equip. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token, then attach Citizen's Crowbar to it. The equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has white, tap, sacrifice Citizen's Crowbar, destroy target artifact or enchantment. There's a lot of qualifiers to that ability, but the ability does exist, and what makes this interesting to discuss is the comparison to Ancestral Blade.
Yeah.
So Ancestral Blade is similar in that it's 1 and a white to cast. You get the quote-unquote 2/2 out of it. Ancestral Blade after that is 1 to equip, period, and that's it. This is 2 to equip, but you get that one-time use of the Naturalize effect. So I think that it's probably worth including over Ancestral Blade. I think we have enough of these now that we don't need to just include all of them.
Oh god, no.
But all in all, I don't think this card's amazing or anything. I think it's kind of a side grade from Ancestral Blade. And if your cube needs these kind of destruction effects to be scattered throughout your cube without just being a bunch of copies of Naturalize, I totally could see it being included over Ancestral Blade. I just don't know if I'm excited enough to do so, because I don't know if I need that.
I agree, but I also think that I would rather have Ancestral Blade and then a different creature that does this style thing better in white.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily because this forces you to pay white and tap.
Yeah.
And I'm not a huge fan of having all of that for the tap aspect means this isn't an immediate answer to whatever your problem is. Like, this Citizen's Crowbar is probably fine. It's just, personally, I'd rather have Ancestral Blade and a creature that did it. Like, ETB, it does it, or whatever.
Your Reclamation Sage or your the Leonin, whatever it's called.
Yeah,
Selesnya thing.
something like that. But, I mean, I can definitely see some people enjoying this style thing more because it's like a complement of both.
Can we talk about for a moment that this is the worst fucking crowbar? You use it once and it breaks.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like,
yeah.
What the fuck? This crowbar is as poorly designed as this set. All right.
Got him.
Yeah.
That's not going to get old by card 50.
There aren't 50 cards.
Eric, go.
Next up, we've got Depopulate. 2 white for a sorcery. Each player who controls a multicolored creature draws a card. Then destroy all creatures. This is our 4-mana Wrath variant.
Yeah, it's essentially Shatter the Sky, but a different twist. And we're at the point where it's like, Day, Wrath, Shatter, Depopulate. Pick 2 or 3 that you like and run them.
Yeah, and, you know, it's all going to be based on what you're trying to push in the cube. Like, if you're trying to push multicolored more, maybe, you know, Depopulate either goes up or down depending on what you're trying to do. It's nice to have the options. I'm a big fan of having more options at 4-mana board wipes.
True.
And this one can fill a spot, so.
Yeah, I think it might be... No, I don't know how I feel about it versus Shatter. I don't really have an opinion yet until I play with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same kind of thing. One of the things is that, like, Shatter, so it's like power 4 or greater, means that, like, the control deck doesn't feel so bad about blowing up their win condition because they have to deal with the rest of whatever threat they had. Whereas this one, multicolor, like, you're going to feel bad about blowing up some of the 1-drop multicolor type stuff that are aggressive, like Figure of Destiny or something like that. That's not going to feel great.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, this is just another option, and yeah, that's good. Like, it's good enough to be considered in the options, and I'm a big fan of that.
The more of these they print, the better it's going to be for your budget cubes too.
Definitely.
That's
going
true.
to spread out the cost a little bit.
All right, I'll take the next one. Giada, Font of Hope, is 1 and a white for a 2/2 legendary creature, Angel. She has flying, vigilance, and that's the end of the card as far as we're concerned.
No, keep reading it. There's like another 50 words there.
I know. She has each other angel you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it for each angel you already control. She also has tap, add white, spend this mana only to cast an angel spell.
I think that's actually not nothing. I don't think you evaluate the card on it, but it will come up.
Sure. I don't think it's a 0, but at the same time, it feels like I might like the card more without the additive distraction bullshit on it.
Sure. I can understand that. But, like, you're going to cast Angel of Invention or...
It's Resto, Angel of Invention, and then we are testing out Sigarda's Vanguard, but you could put Avis in there, whatever.
Yeah.
Sarah's Emissary, and that's every Angel in cube.
But, like, you're going to play those in this deck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not... Just because it's the only Angels, it's like, you're the one that's playing that in this deck. So...
And you could maybe, if you want to, like, make it some cute thing, like, when you're making your choice for what you're putting in, maybe this makes it 5% more likely that you put in Baneslayer versus a different Baneslayer variant, whatever.
Sure. Right, like the actual Angel instead of something that's an avatar or whatever the fuck.
Right. Maybe that flavor comes in there, but just evaluating it as 2/2 flying vigilance for 2, it's not the worst. It's not exciting by any means. It kind of falls into my whole rant of like all the white 2-drops are boring.
Yeah, but I mean this is solid enough that it'll do the job of a white 2-drop.
It's a boring white 2-drop. All right, let's move on to a white 2-drop.
This is Illuminator Virtuoso. 1 and a white for a 1/1 uncommon human rogue with double strike. Whenever this becomes the target of a spell you control, it connives. So connive is draw a card, then discard a card. If you discarded a non-land card, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. It's looting plus, but as me and Brad discussed prior to this, oftentimes I feel like these creatures with connive have lower power and toughness because they assume you to be getting that +1/+1 counter value, which in my opinion makes me dislike connive a little bit more than looting plus would.
Sure, but I don't think this is one of those that actually is.
I agree with you. Yeah, no, because this is another fencing ace, and we literally just got a decent fencing ace in Twin Blade Geist.
What is Twin Blade Geist flavor text that's not in the fencing ace text?
From the grave, you can pay 2 and a white to make it an aura that gives something double strike.
Yeah.
So it has like a flashback-ish card.
Yeah. So here's my problem. Illuminator Virtuoso might be one of the best fencing aces.
It's definitely one of the best, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's between this and Twin Blade Geist.
Well, you're forgetting the cat that's rare.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was like, I'm a fan of Adorned Pouncer, but...
Yeah, I'm talking about Peasant, but yes.
And Lizard Blades. But...
Yeah, Lizard Blades is pretty good.
But it's not in white, so I don't think of it as the same thing, but you're right. I think I just generally like this card, but my problem is I like it only if your cube is one where the flavor text ability he has is reliable.
Yep.
Without it, he is just fencing ace, whereas the other ones, even if you don't use it often, the option is there. And like there are cubes where his flavor text ability does not fucking happen. Where basically if you're targeting, it's a removal spell.
Yeah.
Which is, in my opinion, a lot of cubes.
I think that if you're playing fencing aces, any of them, maybe not Lizard Blades because that's a different thing, but the white ones, I think you're playing a cube that's expecting to pump it in some way.
I'm going to push back on that, actually.
I don't think so.
So I played Twin Blade Geist. It's usually for equipment, which this does not work
Bingo.
with.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's spell you control, not. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can't be ability. Otherwise, if you have like an equip 0, you could just keep on pushing the equip 0 button and make him an infinite.
And that's why I'm leaning more towards Twin Blade unless you're running a bunch of auras. Like if you're pushing an enchantment theme, and so you have a bunch of auras that you're equipping, but you're doing like a mini heroic type thing, this is obviously better. Well, maybe not obviously better, but it's...
Well, I mean, but then Twin Blade gives you the aura so that you're able to use it. So yeah, ooh. I mean, maybe it's in addition to, I don't know.
If you're really pushing that, maybe you do just run both, but in a generic cube, I think that the other one's just going to be better. I think Twin Blade Geist slightly edges out over this.
That's fair.
All right, Christian, read us Inspiring Overseer.
Yeah, so I think that it's pretty clear this is the main slam dunk in white for any cube that's going to be running a card like this. Inspiring Overseer is a common, and it's 2 and a white for a 2/1 Angel Cleric with flying, and when it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life and draw a card. They are really pushing this archetype of card, eh?
Yeah.
I mean, we just keep getting... So we had, well, basically nothing good, and then we all of a sudden had Priest of Ancient Lore, right? Which was this, but without flying, which makes it much worse. And even that was fine. But then we got Spirited Companion, and we're like, okay, do you run both? Do you one run over the other? Like, what are you doing here? And now we just immediately have Inspiring Overseer, and it's like, okay, all right, I guess Priest of Ancient Lore's out. I guess I'll just run this and Spirited Companion, like...
Probably. Yeah. I mean, this is Inspiring Overseer is doing exactly what you want. It's an evasive flying dude.
Like, we love Cloud Conceer.
Draws.
This is better than Cloud Conceer.
Yeah. Gain 1 life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is just honestly a good card at common, especially.
Yeah.
So
I kind of like the art, too. Of all the art, this one's actually pretty decent. I imagine this one might look pretty good in foil.
Yeah.
And I don't hate a lot of the normal arts in the set. I just hate all those promo Art Déco ones.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And I just also have a kind of hatred for the theme failing, but that's whatever. But yeah, Inspiring Overseer, big fan.
You know what's funny, you guys? You guys are already
You have
done
like
with
the next
white.
6 cards?
Yeah,
yeah, we have.
I know.
You had 2 cards. By the way, we're already almost done white.
This is like the reverse hot takes episode where we're just going to keep egging Christian into the next card rather than like when he's got 30-minute breaks in a normal hot takes.
And it's funny too is that white is one of the, I think it's the largest section that we have here, except maybe green.
I'm excited for green. Green actually has a couple.
Yeah,
cards
that one's
I like.
actually mostly you guys, so that'll be a nice way to finish off there. But anyway, moving on. Next up, we've got Mage's Attendant. 2 and a white for a 3/2 uncommon cat rogue When this enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 blue wizard creature token that has the ability of 1, sacrifice this creature, counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 1. This is a 3-mana 3/2 that makes a 1/1, and the 1/1 has the ability to pay 1 and sacrifice it to force spike something. Right?
It makes that Merfolk curse catcher.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, this is...
Seems solid.
Yeah, it's just kind of generically solid. I think it's probably time for me to finally say goodbye to Sandstep Outcast, a card that probably could have gone long before now.
Fucking hell.
But I just keep finding reasons to continue running it. I think it's just finally edged out now. I can't justify that card anymore. So, I mean...
That's very fair.
Yeah, but this is, I mean... Again, a lot of these you're going to find I don't have a ton to say because they're just generically good. There aren't a lot of cards in this set that really make you think. It's a lot of just like, this is a lot like what we have now, but better.
I get what you're saying.
You know what I mean, though, right?
Yes.
Where it's like...
Yeah. With Inspiring Overseer and Mage's Attendant.
I don't need to explain to you Inspiring Overseer. Yeah, it's a card we all play. It's just better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
there's a lot of cards like that. So... Yeah.
All right. So speaking of it's just better, read Patch Up.
Ooh, I don't know if I agree with that sentence.
That was my joke.
Okay. Patch Up. 2 and a white for an uncommon sorcery. Return up to 3 target creature cards with total mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Meh? Brad, why don't you explain why you think this is worth it in a powered cube?
I don't think it's worth it anywhere. I put this one on the list because it got hype in peasant communities from what I was seeing.
Yeah.
And it's not my place to nix it off the list, and I thought you should at least explain your thoughts on it so that we don't get told we missed it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'm missing anything with this.
So the problem here with Patch Up is I think a lot of people are dreaming of the best case scenario.
Yeah.
And I think, on average, this is a really bad reanimate.
Yeah.
Like, this is an awful, overcosted unearth.
My experience playing with this effect is that you often have, like, 2 decent 2-drops in your grave.
And we're talking, like, that's a pretty good case for this card.
But you can't even get both of them. That's my point.
What? You can with this card.
No, you can't.
Oh, it's total mana value. It's even worse. Yes, you're right.
Oh my god, did you think it was 3 at 3 or less?
Yeah.
No, that would be... Yeah. I would actually be interested in talking about that card at least somewhat. They need to be total of 3 or less altogether.
if you could get 3 or less, this would be a good card. Patch Up would be like an honestly good card because you'd be up on mana by just getting 2 creatures.
Yeah.
Like...
I have a feeling, realistically, it's going to be 2-drop and 1-drop as your average... good scenario for this, but more often than not, the actual average for this is way lower than that.
It's single 2-drop or single 3-drop. Like, you'd be surprised, at least I was surprised how often I'm sitting there with this card just dead in my hand. Again, talking about the black version, of course, but sitting with it dead in my head going, I really wish my opponent would just kill my creatures. Because I want to cast this card, and instead of just drawing lands that don't do anything, or that don't do anything, or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it's surprising how it ends up playing out. So, I don't have high hopes for this at all. I'm not even going to test it.
So, I wonder if people are like, because I know that there's a lot of hype about like Unearth in certain cubes, that people really like that.
I like Unearth.
Is it just because like people see that and are like, oh, this is like white Unearth, but it's like, because it was like,
two
that's
more
a
fucking mana.
Yeah, no cycling.
Yeah, like,
and Unearth gets cycled a lot.
Yeah.
Which, if this had cycling, we might be talking a little more.
Sure. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I don't see where the hype or any like interest in this is really coming from.
I'm very willing to just kind of plant my flag on this one is not good, and the only way it's only ever going to see play legitimately is probably like in some weird eternal constructed format where you're just comboing stuff.
Like, is there some type of combo like that I'm missing? That
probably, but like it's still just a value card there.
All right, so talking about slam dunks that don't make you think, let's move on to
All-Seeing Arbiter. We're gonna start in blue. No, Raffine's Informant, 1 and a white for a common 2/1 human wizard. When this enters the battlefield, it connives. So this is more the card that I had in mind when I was discussing my problems with connive in general. This is a Goblin Piker. It's a 2-mana 2/1, and that's it. And from a combat perspective, I mean, that's it unless you're getting counters on this. You only get the single connive, and unless you're discarding something that is a spell, you're not going to get the counter on it. And so then it, in my opinion, it basically becomes either it's not a creature or the connive didn't really do anything beneficial for you. Does that make sense?
Yes, but
I disagree.
I think that's where I am. What you're saying makes sense, but I do think in this specific case you're underestimating it. I get that, like with Merfolk Branchwalker, that you don't run it anymore, and I still think it's an all right card, especially in budget cubes. Like I've run it before, and it's a solid, mediocre mid-range creature that you need. And there's no way that this common isn't going to see play in at least pauper cubes.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And possibly still be okay in peasant, but I have to like dig through your peasant and figure out like maybe it's because you're running too many cards that you can't give up because they're for certain archetypes that you're trying to push.
There is a lot of that. 2-drops in white are notorious for that. Just white cards in general. White creatures are notorious for that.
I feel like in cubes that might be differently constructed than yours in the peasant range, they're going to really like this still. And even all the way up to like maybe a more budget or lower power unrestricted cube of some type.
I was just going to say, like, I think that Raffine's Informant actually is good enough for like the lower power in even rare stuff. Just because like I get what you're saying originally, Christian, but like I think you're undervaluing how good that first loot is on a low drop creature.
Yeah.
Like even if this stays as a 2/1, whatever, you've still increased your hand's power by having the card selection of the loot on a 2-drop. That's still a 2/1. Like it's not great stat wise, but it's still there as something that's a chump blocker, or you know, it's still a thing to get equipped, like whatever. But like,
yeah, I guess the equipping,
that first loot on the 2-drop is still going to smooth the rest of the game out a good amount.
Especially because white has less access to it, especially a white deck that's interested in a card like this, which is probably like white red or white green. It's going to have a lot less access to this type of hand fixing.
Exactly.
Do you like this less than Spirited Companion?
Spirited Companion is the dog. They're different.
Because I definitely think I like this less than Spirited Companion.
This is more aggressive. This is meant for a mid-range to aggro deck.
Yeah, whereas
Spirit
that's more
Companion
of a,
is meant for control to mid-range.
Okay,
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Well, you know, maybe I'm being a little bit too hard on it just because I feel like Connive's a little bit awkward. I don't think, like, for what it's worth, I don't think this card is bad.
I think Connive, if it had just said Explore, you would evaluate this better, and Connive is better than Explore.
Well, I think Connive is going to be substantially better on lower drops. Like 1 and 2 drop Connive is better than 5 and 6 drop Connive.
Sure.
That's also very fair.
I don't give a shit on my 5 and 6 drop about that. I don't need to smooth my hand. I don't need to smooth my card draw. I don't need to do that kind of shit. I just want my win condition or whatever. But on the 1 and 2 drops, and sort of even 3 drops is like the midline kind of there. But like the lower drops just mean that you get more options open up for a poor opening hand kind of thing.
Yeah, it's true.
But and then again, like, I mean, it's one of those, like, if, like, this is still just a 2-drop dude. Like, if your 2-drop section needs a certain amount of synergy-based cards, then this is just a dude.
Yeah.
Whatever. Who cares? But I do think Raffine's Informant is decent.
All right, I'm finding it up there.
So, let's move into blue. All-Seeing Arbiter. Take it away, Eric.
All-Seeing Arbiter is 4 blue for a 5/4 avatar with flying. Whenever All-Seeing Arbiter enters the battlefield or attacks, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Whenever you discard a card, target creature an opponent controls get -X, -0 until your next turn, where X is the number of different mana values among cards in your graveyard.
It's a blue Titan. It's so
I mean, it's got flying.
Yeah.
that was the big thing. Is I was comparing it to Shimmer Dragon and comparing it to Consecrated Sphinx or Dream Eater.
Yeah.
So you've got like all of those, and body wise, this is fine.
Right.
Shimmer Dragon's got a better body, but it's an okay option in your 6-drop slot for blue. We've got like 7 or 8, none of which I'll blink an eye at. If you pick them over a different one, this goes in the pile. I have no strong opinion on this card.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's fine. I don't think it's the best one of the bunch by any means.
No. But I do like it a decent amount because it feels to me like what I wanted the original Blue Titan to be.
Mm-hmm. That was what we were talking about.
Feeling bad kind of thing. Like this All-Seeing Arbiter feels like it's going to play like Blue Titan, but better in cubes. Like for both you playing it and the opponent not feeling like this is dumb.
I was never a fan of Frost Titan, as Eric's very aware.
Yeah.
So my opinion on this being much better than the Frost Titan isn't much. But
that's
yes,
fair.
I agree it's better than Frost Titan, but so is like literally Visindrix in my opinion. So fuck Frost Titan.
But yeah, I mean, All-Seeing Arbiter is just another one of the 6-drop blues that it'll do the job. Choose which ones you like, kind of thing, and that's cool. I'm a big fan of having more options.
All right, Christian, I don't think you've talked enough in this episode yet, so read the next couple.
Let me
cards.
finish off blue for us with a couple cards, shall I? Next up, we have Make Disappear. 1 and a blue for a common, instant, counter target spell unless its controller pays 2. And it's got a new ability here that's called Casualty. So this is Casualty 1. As you cast this spell, you may sacrifice a creature with power 1 or greater. When you do, copy the spell, and you may choose a new target for the copy. This is probably around the same power level of Lose Focus, which just has Replicate for 2. And so they're kind of doing the exact same thing where either you pay the mana or you sacrifice.
I like Lose Focus a lot more than this.
I think I would also rather play Lose Focus, but I think that
if I'm in a control deck, I don't have a creature to spare. They're used for chump blocking.
You're getting to what I was exactly going to say. Yeah. So I think that it depends on what your cube's density of creatures in blue and the blue decks that your cube is creating. Are they going to have enough creatures to support the casualty? Because obviously, most of the time, you don't even need to pay the extra 2 mana or pay the casualty. Most of the time, you're getting to counter the spell regardless. But on that off chance,
your opponent casts something on curve, you get it.
But on the off chance that you need to, what are your cube decks more going to have available to them? 2 extra mana or a creature to spare? You see what I'm saying? So
especially in blue, where it's like it's not even a strong token creature color.
Exactly.
It's by far the worst token creature color.
And if you're in the tempo deck, you don't want to be sacrificing your creatures because that's losing tempo.
Exactly.
I will say, with this and Murmuring Mystic, can you order things correctly to sacrifice the token that you make?
As you cast the spell, no. It's an additional cost.
Okay, so that's a little awkward. You may have the token already, but if, this... I guess the same thing would happen to Lose Focus, though, because you get both copies. You get multiple tokens. Yeah. So, yeah, it's still pretty much on the same part there. I don't think it's bad, but, yeah, I agree with you that I think in most cubes you would probably rather have Lose Focus.
Speaking of bad...
Yeah, I'm going to let you take this one, Brad.
All right. An Offer You Can't Refuse is a single blue mana for an instant. Counter target non-creature spell. Its controller creates 2 treasure tokens. I don't think this was like highly liked in at least the cube community. It got a lot of talk in the Magic community in general. The card is probably going to be absolute trash.
I mean, it has a purpose, but I don't think that's useful in cubes.
I can see in a very high-end combo-powered cube where every spell cast is potentially win the game, that this is worth it. But giving your opponent 2/3 of a Black Lotus to counter a spell, and that spell better have won them the game if you used that. Especially in early turns where like the 1 mana really matters.
Yeah.
Like the second you're up to 2-3 mana, just cast a normal ass counter spell. Don't screw around with this. Give your opponent most of a Black Lotus.
Like, we already have Swan Song.
Yeah.
Which generally is going to do the same thing.
And again, only sees play in the most combo oriented of cubes.
Right. So, I mean, like, an offer you can't refuse definitely has a purpose in Magic. The vast majority of cubes are not going to want it.
But we had to bring it up. It is a thing, and certain cubes will want it. But they're going to be few and far between.
And for what it's worth, Peasant, I don't think it's worth including. Pretty much ever.
It just happens to be an uncommon.
Exactly.
Right.
But
All right, we're going to finish off blue here with Witness Protection. Single blue mana for a common enchantment aura. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a green and white citizen creature with base power and toughness 1/1 named Legitimate Business Person. That right there is probably the best part of the card, I'll be straight up honest with you. The card making their creature named Legitimate Business Person is fantastic. However, Brad, you did point out to me that this is just Frogify, but 1 less mana. And
yeah, and I remember you were pretty high on Frogify and the other one.
yes, Kasmina's Transformation. You're welcome.
Right.
Thank you.
There we go.
I'm very good at this. If only I could remember what I had for dinner last night. These effects, so this is one of the better versions of this effect that we've had now. That is true. There's no arguing that.
It's 100% cheaper.
Yeah. What I have come to find is I'm no longer running any of those effects that do this. And the reason why is I find that I would rather have my blue removal be an instant or sorcery, just at the end of the day. Blue enchantments that act as removal, they can do the job of removal, but I really just need that density of those instants and sorceries for a lot of the other cards that I'm including. With a card like Witness Protection, I don't want to have a scenario happen where people are building their decks and they're having to cut this or make that decision, between this and an actual instant or sorcery. That's just me.
Yeah. I mean, on the flip side, I think that the fact that this is an enchantment could work for some that are trying to push more enchantment stuff.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And that's kind of what I was about to get into is, that's for my cube. That's specific to me specifically. If you are not caring about the density of your instance sorceries as much as I am, or specifically you want enchantments in blue, then yeah, this is obviously totally fine. That's it. That's blue.
So let's move on to black with Body Launderer, Eric.
Body Launderer is 2 black for a 3/3 Ogre Rogue with Death Touch. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, Body Launderer connives. When Body Launderer dies, return another target non-rogue creature card with equal or lesser power from your graveyard to the battlefield. It seems fine. To me, it feels like Gonti, where it's at the same kind of like power level of like it's decently good enough, but you're playing it because it tickles your fancy. Like this is like, oh, you enjoy what it's kind of doing there.
Yeah, I'll say this is a card that works more with aristocrats than Gonti does.
Right.
If you're looking for that in your 4-drop slot, I think there's better aristocrat focused cards in the 4-drop slot for that deck. And I don't think I'm really wanting a worse one to add in addition to them.
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's one of those that like this would also be fine in more control decks just because like it's a death touch. Like it's a death touch creature that.
Do you like it more than Ebon Death Draco Lich? Which I know you don't even remember.
No, that's the one that you get to play back.
4-drop 5/2 Flash Flyer. It enters tapped though, but you can cast it from your graveyard if anything other than it died this turn.
Right. I think I like Body Launderer more. It just kind of...
I go the other way, I think.
Yeah?
And that's kind of where this lands for me. Is like
it's the same kind of thing.
It's in that debatable range there.
Right. And it's kind of up to the cube designer and the players that are like, which one you like more. I would kind of say I like Body Launderer just because that type of thing feels better for me, but it's not a slam dunk by any means.
Yeah.
Good.
All right, Christian, it's been a long time since you've had the chance to talk, so I guess let's go back to you.
We're going to talk about Dusk Mangler. Dusk Mangler is 5 black for an uncommon 5/4 horror. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature, discard a card, or pay 4 life. When Dusk Mangler enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a creature, discards a card, and loses 4 life. The problem with this card is everyone says, okay, this is a great reanimator target. And they're not
7 mana.
wrong.
It's going to be tough to cast it originally, so...
Yeah, exactly. You're only going to reanimate this creature. And so when you have top-end creatures that go from the you could cast this or reanimate this to you're only going to reanimate this, suddenly the competition for that slot gets much higher. And so the thing about this card...
What is there in uncommon for you at that slot?
I would rather have Archfiend of Sorrow. I would rather have First Sphere Gargantua. I would rather have literally any Eldrazi.
Is Archfiend the one that gives your opponent stuff -2/-2?
And it has flying.
Okay. Yeah.
That one you could actually cast. This one has so many downsides
Yeah.
if you pay the mana for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's also one of those, like, if you're looking at just reanimate stuff, you can go outside of just black to some of the green stuff.
Mm-hmm. Archfiend of Sorrows also has an Earth on top of that.
Yeah, no, fuck this card. All right, let's move on.
All right. Nightclubber. 1 black for an uncommon 2/2 human warrior. When Nightclubber enters the battlefield, creatures your opponents control get -1/-1 until end of turn. And we've got another new ability. This is Blitz. So it has Blitz for 2 and a black, which is, if you cast this spell for its Blitz cost, it gains haste, and when this creature dies, draw a card, sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. I personally don't like the way they had to template that, because it feels like the correct order would have to be, it gains haste, you sacrifice it at your next end step, and when you do, it draws a card, kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's awkward to read.
I get the minor gripe.
But it can die other ways, so...
Yeah, it's not... I think they had to format it that way. It's just, that's a minor gripe for me.
It's also, it gains those things, like it gains haste and this ability.
Exactly. It's just, I felt like pointing that out, because the first couple times that I read it, I'm like, okay. Like, I don't know, it just felt weird to me. Blitz as a whole, I actually really like,
I'm a big fan of it. It's a cool ability. It seems to be reasonably well costed on some of the creatures that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
There's multiple Blitz cards that I think are cube worthy.
Yeah.
This one seems like a slam dunk for you, though. It's only your opponent's creatures.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So this is so that we have Plague Mare. If you want this kind of effect right now, Plague Mare does this, but it's a 2/3 and it can't be blocked by white creatures. I mean, this is probably just going to be better than that. The question, I think, is whether or not your cube would rather have this kind of effect or the Drown in Sorrow kind of effect. And I understand you can run both. But, you know, if your cube is more looking for quote-unquote board wipes, you'd rather just have 2/3 Drown in Sorrow effect cards, which we have a million of.
Sure.
Is Drown -2 or -3?
It's -2.
-2.
Usually with upside.
The thing is like, I guess I don't know exactly your distribution of 1 and 2 toughness, but like, it seems to me that even like Drown and stuff was just gonna hit like small tokens essentially most of the time.
It does hit more than tokens. It does.
Okay.
Yeah. But what I will say is that what I kind of like about this is that it almost only hits tokens. And this is something that I've been struggling with a little bit. This is a little bit more of a nuanced discussion, but token strategies are quite powerful, at least in my cube. It's very hard, and it's very hard to take a scalpel to that archetype without destroying aggro or without making the token deck unplayable.
Between your 1 toughness and 2 toughness creatures, you've got 151 to 88 between 2 and 1.
Okay, that is a decent...
Yeah.
So it still hits over half.
Yeah.
It's pretty solid.
No, it's totally solid.
Like you said, this is so you can call all the tokens.
While without,
I think,
just ruining an aggro player completely like Drown in Sorrow does.
Yeah.
That's the thing is like, so when the like first iteration of the board game cube was around, tokens was by far the strongest.
It was a secret, really strong
Yeah.
deck in that cube.
I would have loved to have Nightclubber
Yeah, dude.
in that cube. Like,
Yes.
that would have been one of the best cards in that cube to balance a lot of things, because it would hit the tokens, and the blitz factor gives you an aggressive black strategy.
Yep.
Like, I love the fact that Nightclubber exists, even if, like, it doesn't make it into some cubes. Like, the fact that it exists as an option now is awesome.
Yeah. And worth mentioning, too, relevant creature types. You know, it works with sacrifice archetypes as well. Any of these blitz cards kind of trigger those things as well, which is nice.
Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of, let's move into Tenacious Underdog. Tenacious Underdog is 1 in a black for a 3/2 creature human warrior. It has Blitz for 2 black and pay 2 life, which sounds awful, but you may cast Tenacious Underdog from your graveyard using its Blitz ability.
Dude, I fucking love this card.
It seems good.
It's very good. It's up there with like Skyclave Shade as far as I'm concerned.
I like this better.
You know what? It just hit me that you get to draw a card every time you do it as well. That's really sick.
Yeah.
That's good, but you have to spend all that mana. Skyclave can come out cheaper. But either way, this is very good, and I would definitely recommend testing it in your cube. It's probably going to be phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see this being bad. Like,
no.
in any strategy that's doing black normal things in cube, like, Tenacious Underdog is doing exactly what I want.
Absolutely.
Love this card.
So, short and sweet, and let's move on to my favorite card in the set. I'm not even kidding. Goldhound, which is a single red mana for a 1/1 artifact creature treasure dog.
It is a treasure.
All dogs are treasures.
Yep.
He has First Strike, Menace, and tap, sacrifice Goldhound, add 1 mana of any color. This card is legitimately one of the most exciting cards in the set. I'm not kidding, and it was a common in the final dump.
Yep.
Dude, I'm excited for this card as well.
Same.
This is not to be underestimated. It is a fantastic thing to equip to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were just, we're in the middle of updating the Miser Cube right now for 2022. And I am now officially going to keep it from being locked, because I was about to lock it down and have it be the final cut, because I need to put this dog into the cube because it fits so well into the archetype.
Yep.
Dude, it hits so many things. Like, it's an artifact. It's got First Strike and Menace, which are great.
Yeah.
And, like, it still has that little, like, extra flavor of, oh shit, I need mana now.
Exactly.
It's also nice because I'm going to cut in here because I think that...
Yeah.
Because I'm also really excited about this card, obviously. If you're excited about it, I'm almost always going to be excited about it, right? This is fighting for the same slots as a lot of other 1-drops, but I like this one more than a lot of them. But one thing that I think is really cool with it is, in my Gruul decks, it is very, very hard for me to have cards that aren't aggressive but could work in mid-range. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yes.
so hard. You end up with a bunch of like red 1-drops and then like dirtily green 3-drops and 4-drops. It's weird that the deck never melds together. This is perfect. This is an aggressive 1-drop that, if you need to, can be a quote-unquote mana dork. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a Lotus Petal.
Yeah.
Right. Which does the job in those decks. Like, when you need
It
it,
does.
that does exactly what you want.
Because those
to.
decks,
Like,
you're not necessarily, at least in Peasant, you're not necessarily trying to get like, oh, I need to get up to 5 mana and cast all my things. I think that happens a lot more in Ural's Gruul decks.
You're like, I want to cast the 5-drop. I don't care. I don't need to do beyond that because they're fucking
I need
dead.
my 3-drop on turn 2, period.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that.
Right.
It's more that kind of thing. And yeah, this one's awesome.
Yeah. Goldhound. So cool.
Gold Hound.
Yes.
But not a gold card. Bullshit.
Very happy. All right, so I stole that card from you, Christian. You can take the next ones.
All right, so next is Mayhem Patrol. 1 in a red for a common 1/2 Devil Warrior. It also has Menace. And whenever it attacks, target creature, which can include itself, gets +1/+0 until end of turn. And on top of that, it has Blitz for 1 and a red. This card also seems kind of sick for a common.
Seems solid.
Yeah, get my low drop Menace creature. It's at worst, it's a bear with Menace. It also just has Blitz.
I can see that happening quite often in the decks that are going to be playing this, is where you're just like, I'm going to blitz this out. I'll pump itself, 2/2 haste, and draw a card. That does its job pretty well.
2/2 haste Menace.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
that kind of does what you want in those aggressive red decks at 2-drop.
mm-hmm. Because of the menace, like, this can attack not freely, but freely enough to where you're like, in that aggressive deck, if they're spending 2 of their blockers to block this, you don't care that it's dying. Because you're getting through with so many other things, and you can use this to pump those other things. You can really, really make this a bad situation for your opponent. And then it just has the flexibility of Blitz on top of that. Yeah, I love this card.
Seems solid.
It's cool because the red 2-drops are all very, very boring for me. Like, it's not that none of them are good, it's just they're so fucking boring. This is a cool card. This is a lot of play to it. I'm glad that pauper players get to use this as well.
Yeah.
So next up is a red 5-drop, and it's one that I think is probably, I might bite my tongue here, it might be the best 5-drop creature that we've gotten in Peasant since Charging Monstrosaur. It's not...
Okay, I was like, oh, fucking hot takes with Christian. That's a real hot takes.
It's not better than Charging Monstrosaur. Yeah. Nothing will probably ever be better than Charging Monstrosaur, but this might be number 2. I think it has to compete a little bit with Rite of the Raging Storm. That's a little tough to compete with, but nonetheless.
True. That card's also very good.
But if you need a third one, here's Pugnacious Pugilist. Is it Pugilist or Pugilist?
Always done Pugilist.
I thought so. Okay. I'm gonna call him. I'm gonna call him Pug Pug.
Okay.
Yeah. I would definitely call him Pug Pug to his face.
Yeah, dude. He seems nice. So
it's a good nickname.
Yeah, he definitely seems nice.
It is. Pug Pug is 3 red for an uncommon 4/4 Ogre Warrior. Whenever Pug Pug attacks, create a tapped and attacking 1/1 red devil creature token with, when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. These are the same devil tokens we got back in, was it Midnight Hunt? Or no, actually it was probably back in...
Tybalt.
Yeah.
It was
Shadows block. Yeah, it was the original one, and then Tybalt also made them. Hey, also, by the way, this card also has Blitz for 3 and a red. That makes a big difference here.
Yeah.
This card is awesome. It is not crazy good, I don't think. It does not have the sort of inevitability that you might think it does, that some other things, like, this is a very, very expensive Goblin Rabble Master or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's not quite doing the same thing. But as a 4/4, it will be able to attack some of the time, especially if you start equipping it or getting counters on it or whatever. And every time it does, it's just getting a little bit more value, making things a little bit harder for your opponent. And that's as its 5-drop mode. In your aggro decks, this can absolutely be a 4-drop top end for your very aggressive decks, where this just comes in 4/4 haste, makes a 1/1, also tapping and attacking, also deals 1 damage when it dies, and then this dies and draws you another card. Possibly gets a sacrifice trigger. Like, that's awesome to me.
There's a lot of very good play patterns with it, and even the bad ones seem fine.
Exactly.
Like, even if they kill it, like, you've still gotten the kill spell and a 1/1, and like, if you get into combat, those devil tokens are actually pretty annoying in combat, just because they can fling the 1 damage around to any target.
Yep.
So,
I mean, if you start accumulating them, it starts getting really annoying for the opponent.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
You can also use this in like your aristocrats deck, because it is providing some amount of fodder for those effects. I mean, those devil tokens with goblin bombardment are nasty.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, 2 damage getting swung around is nothing to sneeze at. And I mean, you don't have that many good options really at 5. You've got fantastic ones with Charging Monstrosaur and even Rite of the Raging Storm that you brought up.
Yeah.
But like,
that's the end.
I think that's just about it, right?
That's it. That legitimately is it. Right now I'm playing Falkenrath Celebrants. That's a 4/4 menace that makes 2 blood tokens.
That seems awful.
I just looked it up to see what else you were running. And I was like,
Pug Pug seems like a fantastic 3rd spot.
I want to say, if people start calling this card Pug Pug, I want fucking credit. You don't have to pay me, but you have to like reference me every time.
Yeah, definitely.
Put my face on that.
All right, let's read the JoJo reference.
Sticky Fingers. Single red mana for another common here. Lots of good commons in this set.
Yeah.
This is also a crazy good
Yeah.
comment.
Single red mana for a common enchantment aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature has menace, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. And when enchanted creature dies, draw a card. Look, they saved the card at the end there.
Yep. This is honestly so like is as far as cube is concerned, it's one of like the Rancor tier enchantment auras where I don't play Rancor and I wouldn't play this in my current build of my cube. But if you're going to be pushing some type of like aura usage in general, this is up there.
Yep.
It replaces itself properly. It's correct cost to benefit when it actually doesn't get 2-for-1'd. There's the unfortunate tiny window where you can still 2-for-1 this, which is very obnoxious.
Yeah, I guess that's true, huh?
It's the knock against it, in my opinion.
But it's still just a 1-drop.
Yeah.
But it's just a 1-drop aura. I'm not asking too much out of it.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing is like, even if they get you with it, it's like, okay, I'm not that committed to the strategy.
Yeah.
So
one thing I was told by a listener who I have pretty decent connections with at this point, who kind of focuses on Peasant, and we like to go back and forth in discussing what we think is good or not. He brought up Monastery Swift Spear into this, and it's just like, oh, you know what I mean? Like that's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's you know, it's solid. Again, I'm so glad it's common. Pauper players have got to be loving this set. If no one else will, Pauper players will love this set.
yeah.
Yeah, a surprising number of your cards this time are commons. Yep. Usually you get like 80% uncommons, and we mentioned a couple commons that are just really good. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of good commons in this set. I'd say several of the best cards in this set are commons this time.
It's legitimately true.
And not just because you're allowed to have like a removal spell, but like legit good cards.
It actually might make the limited format decent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Limited formats are impossible to figure out without actually playing them to figure out what it looks like when you open packs.
Yeah, but like it could be solid just because there are so many, at least talk about cards for Q at common. So.
Yeah.
But moving on, we've got Urbrask, Heretic Praetor, 3 red for a 4/4 legendary Phyrexian Praetor with haste. And at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. It also has at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, the next time they would draw a card this turn, instead, they exile the top card of their library. They may play it this turn. This is weird, right?
It is.
Because, like, it's making it so that your opponent can't stockpile cards, but, like, it's not actually taking them off of drawing, in a way.
You also get to see their cards.
Yeah, it is solid, especially against control players.
Yeah.
Like, their counterspells are all dead now. Unless they draw them with a draw spell. You know, get around it. But the draw per turn...
But they have to cast the draw spells on their turn.
Yeah. Well, if they have one in hand already, they can get out of this
I guess.
But
right.
In general, this forces everyone to play like a red aggro player.
And it also gives you a kind of card draw, which means that you're playing in like a red aggro player plus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think Urbrask is better than I saw a lot of people giving him shit for. I still think he's quite good. I don't think he is of the strongest tier in the 5 drops in red.
We've got some really good ones.
We've got some gross ones. But like if you're debating something like below your Thundermaws or Glorybringers, then this is right there with the others, especially if you're looking for something that a mid-range player will also be happy to play.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like, it's not just a purely aggressive card that's just here to get the final hits in and be done.
Yeah.
So I like the card.
Honestly, there's not like that much. I think it is good, but it has the competition where like you just have to figure out what you want to run. Urbrask is definitely in contention and should be thought about if you want to play it or not. But
and just a quick correction from myself, I definitely thought it was anytime they draw a card, they have to exile it. I didn't realize it was only their first turn.
No.
Yeah, that's why they can get out of the lock somewhat. And it's unfortunate because I feel like if they had updated the wording so that they always get that, I would have really liked the card more.
Yeah.
But because of how lame the second ability gets. He's all right, and I still think he's worth testing in some cubes. But
Yep.
All right, moving on to my magic card, Christian. Go ahead.
Let's not. Oh, fuck off.
So to finish off red, we've got yet another worth talking about common from the set. Witty Roastmaster is 2 and a red for a 3/2 Devil Citizen. It also has Alliance. This is probably going to be the only time we talk about this ability, unless you all have something. Alliance is just reminder text, and it's whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, do a thing. So in this case...
It's not reminder text.
I'm sorry, which is it? Ability word. Look, if they wanted to make it easier, they should have made it easier, instead of making me have to read a damn book to understand how their game works, alright? I'm just saying.
Continue.
Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Witty Roastmaster deals 1 damage to each opponent. This is Impact Tremors on a stick. It has decent stats, given that fact. I think between this and Spiteful Prankster, which deals damage based on your things dying, and then also Goblin Bombardment, which is obviously a sacrifice outlet that does this when they die, clearly. I think that Peasant Cubes really have a nice suite of effects to take advantage of token strategies now. Like, it's just... You kind of just have all 3 aspects of it now. I've toyed around with playing Impact Tremors in the past, but I never really chose to do it because, I didn't really like that it was just an enchantment that quote-unquote did nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're like taking your turn off.
Yeah, to set
playing the card so that there's a minor bonus on the rest of your cards. At least this one, you get 3 power for 3 mana in addition to it.
Yeah. So, again, that's really all there is to say about it. Another awesome common. I think this is going to play pretty decently.
All right, let's move into green.
Green is going to be a lot more of you all. I have 2 cards to talk about. The first of which is a so-so one. This is Cleanup Crew. 4 green for an uncommon 6/6 human citizen. This is a very, very strong bunch of humans.
This is a massive human citizen. Just one.
This is a colossal
lad.
dread maul worth of human citizen. When Cleanup Crew enters the battlefield, choose 1. Destroy target artifact, or destroy target enchantment, or exile target card from a graveyard, or you gain 4 life. So the way I look at this card, green 5-drop creatures are a lot like red 5s for me, where the pool of the ones that are worth even discussing are very shallow to begin with.
Yeah.
I think that this card gets more interesting with how much you as a cube designer are pushing your artifacts and enchantments. Because if this is a 6-drop creature that quote-unquote always has a choice between being removal or stabilizing, I think that's awesome. But unless you're really pushing artifacts and enchantments where you're going to have that choice more often than not, this just kind of plays out like a weak Arborback Stomper, and that's not worth it in my opinion.
I get why you like this card. It feels like a nothing to me, but I guess looking at what you're running,
they're almost all nothing.
Sure.
So that's the problem.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think I'm going to play this. I just think that that's the correct way to evaluate it. You need to make sure that when you cast this, you have to choose between destroying an artifact and enchantment or gaining the 4 life. If you're just gaining the 4 life every time, you should not be playing this card.
Just play Colossal Dreadmaw instead.
Legitimately play Colossal Dreadmaw.
All right, so up next we've got Fight Rigging, which is 2 and a green for an enchantment with Hideaway 5. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Then if you control a creature with power 7 or greater, you may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost. I don't think this is a fantastic card by any means. It is a 3-drop do-nothing enchantment.
There is the fact that it's putting counters on creatures.
Bingo.
And we've played around with having like a counters theme, especially in green. I think when we did it, it was green-blue for whatever reason.
Well, it's because we had just gotten off of Ixalan, and there was actually a pretty big green-blue counters theme at the time. This now, being mono-green, is one of the better ways to get +1/+1 counters with any secondary color in that deck, whatever you're trying to support.
Right.
So if you're trying for a hardened scale style deck in your cube, this is legit a pretty decent enchantment to keep around. It
seems like it.
It's not the strongest thing, putting a +1/+1 counter on something every turn, but if you look at your average mid-range deck, it can get pretty gross depending on the keywords on a card. God forbid you have a double striker. This gets really good really fast.
I'm going to push back a little bit, I think. Are you forgetting that Curse of Predation exists?
Curse of Predation is mediocre because the creature has to swing.
Sure.
This one, the creature doesn't have to swing. You can put it on the things that aren't worth swinging with because they'll get deleted and make them into threats for the future.
Okay, I guess that's true. A safer option versus the higher ceiling.
And because this also has the other way of looking at it for the higher end mid-range to ramp decks, where it's possible you'll get a 7-power creature, which is not the Hardened Scales deck. But on that side of things, the Hideaway 5 tricking something into play is kind of neat. I don't think it's the greatest thing you can be doing in a ramp deck, but it's at least interesting enough that if you're in like a lower power setting, I could see you liking this and going for it.
And in that deck, it really does matter that like you don't have to swing to get the +1/+1 counter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
let's go back to why the hell is this account?
Yeah, so this one reminds me a lot of white card whose name is Inspiring Overseer, the better Priest of Ancient Lore that we just were talking about earlier, in that this is just a quote-unquote generic common that is awesome, and I'm really looking forward to playing it. This is Jewel Thief. 2 and a green for a 3/3 common cat rogue. It has Vigilance, it has Trample, and when it enters the battlefield, create a treasure token. They pushed the commons, man.
that's a lot of stuff.
It is. So,
but at the end of the day, like it's still just like whatever.
yeah, no, it's relatively vanilla, but I mean, I don't know. Like, I need 3-drop creatures in my green section that can merge the higher end with the lower end without just being aggressive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, to really help the Gruul kind of.
You're running Deepwood Denizen.
Yeah, Deepwood Denizen's coming out. That was a test for that's one of the weaker cards in my queue.
Like, you're playing much worse cards than this.
No, this card is good, though. I think this card's actively good.
Yeah.
I can accept that it's like solid, especially in like the Gruul kind of mesh of like where you're trying to push things together, and like the treasure token will actually like be really nice in that deck.
I mean, I think about something like this in that same Gruul deck that I was talking about before with Goldhound, where you play the Goldhound in that deck because it's itself aggressive, but it's also going to potentially provide you the mana to cheat out, other things quicker.
Yeah.
So you could play the Goldhound and then potentially cheat this out, and then now you still have a treasure token again, and you can like start trying to cheat something out. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of nice in that way. This is it's not an impossible wall to get past in an aggro deck, but if this comes out on turn 2, they definitely have to answer it. Like they can. It's boltable, but 3/3 Vigilance Trample.
It is boltable, but it's still something like you have to use. You have to use your bolt on it. Like
this is very boltable.
Speaking of something you have to use your bolt on, that didn't quite work.
Nope, not at all. Talk about a 7/7.
I feel like you're misevaluating this next card, Brad. Next up, we've got Titan of Industry, which is 4 green for a 7/7 elemental with reach and trample. When Titan of Industry enters the battlefield, choose 2. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Target player gains 5 life. Create a 4/4 green Rhino Warrior creature token, or put a shield counter on a creature you control.
This is the first shield counter we've talked about.
That's true.
Isn't it?
But before you get into that, I just want to say, Cleanup Crew is almost as strong lore-wise as this.
I mean, yeah, this is City Hall. City Hall's not very strong. Have you ever been like in a small government meeting? Anyway, so back to shield counters. They are regenerate on a counter. That's basically it.
Sorta.
Would take damage.
If a creature would get damaged or get killed instead, remove a shield counter.
Which is decent. Like
yeah, it's totem armor, which we've played with totem armor before. It's a solid effect.
Yeah. And I mean, this is all coming together quite nicely in my opinion. It's got a big body with reach is not amazing, but trample is good. and you get to choose on making a 4/4 shield counters, 5 life, or dealing with a problematic artifact or enchantment. Like,
Yeah.
there's just a lot of value going on here, but it's still a 7-drop. So,
But in my opinion, this is probably... So when you're on the back foot, Hornet Queen is the best 7-drop.
Yeah.
yeah, basically.
When you're not on the back foot, in my opinion, Thorn Mammoth is currently the best 7-drop.
It's definitely up there. Yeah.
Titan of Industry, I think, is the best one when you're not on the back foot. Because you get to choose 2.
Right.
You can drop this down as 11/11 power and toughness, 7 of which has a totem armor on it, so that the first removal spell whiffs unless it's exile.
Yeah.
And
this still comes with like the insurance of, oh, they have a problematic enchantment that needs to be dealt with, or I will lose the game.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, or you're playing the ever-loved, I'm playing ramp against the aggro player. Sweet, I finally get to ramp something out. Too bad I'm at 5 fucking life.
Yeah.
This can gain you 5 life.
And make that 4/4 to help stabilize.
Yeah, you ever
Yeah.
hear about Fire Blast?
Yeah. I've once or twice in my life lost a game of Magic because some asshole with a fire blast.
After casting a 7-drop. It's like, hey, cool. Nice 7-drop, idiot. Yeah, Titan of Industry seems pretty fantastic. I still think I like Hornet Queen better just because it gets the
Hornet Queen's better when you are losing.
behind on board, yeah.
Yes. Which, in my opinion, with a 7-drop, that happens a lot more than you want it to.
Yeah, it definitely
So
does.
Hornet Queen, in a lot of ways, is still possibly better. But in my opinion, if you're not actively losing the game when you drop this, it's probably doing more for you than Hornet Queen.
Yeah.
So let's move into a weird card.
Okay. I mean, yeah. Go for it.
Topiary Stomper is 1 green for a 4/4 creature plant dinosaur.
That's
He's
awesome.
adorable. So adorable.
It's awesome.
Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't think about life finds a way.
I mean, they definitely should have. Like, if they could, they should have. I'm not even like, look, yes. Plant dinosaur has my vote.
It's got vigilance, and it's got, when it enters the battlefield, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle, so it ramp and growths on entry.
Brad, this card's amazing. Stop reading. You don't even need to keep reading. This card's good enough as it is.
I
Yeah.
know. So the catch, obviously, is it can't attack or block unless you control 7 or more lands.
Aw. Wah, wah.
I don't think this is great, but I was thinking about it versus something like Beanstalk Giant. So that one is the 3-drop, and then it becomes a 7-drop, power and toughness equal to number of
Lands. Yeah.
lands, which is mediocre. And I know that's somewhat popular in lower power settings. It's a fine enough card. This one, I think, is probably
Do you actually think this is better?
on par with...
I don't.
I don't think it's better.
I don't know.
The thing to me is like, it's essentially a 3-drop do nothing because it's only getting a basic land and it's coming to play tapped.
It's not a do nothing. It's 3-drop ramp and growth. It's not great. Do nothing is different. Do nothing is for when you play a card and nothing occurs. This one does ramp you.
It's pretty fucking do nothing. 3-drop rampant growth? Are you kidding me, dude?
It's overcosted for what it is, but it's not a do nothing. Do nothing is a specific term.
I guess.
So I don't
I just gotta
think-
say, like, if somebody's playing Topiary Stomper and I'm like not super slow control deck, I'm happy.
yeah.
Even if I'm mid range, I'm fucking happy.
Yep.
I think the problem for me is the 7 lands is a shitload of lands.
Yep.
It's just so many, and it can't even block. Like, I could understand like it can't attack.
I actually
or
thought
whatever,
it
but, like,
could block when I read it the first time.
It can't block.
I also thought it could block at first.
It can't block, dude. This is a bad card.
So I'm not going to lie. I got this from a patron and they mentioned blocking with it. And when I read it on air, I was like, oh shit.
I mean, I'm happy we brought it up because, like, it's a plant dinosaur, and that's fucking awesome. But the card's bad.
All right, Eric, read your favorite card in the set.
We've got Vivian on the Hunt, which is 4 green for a planeswalker with 4 starting loyalty. She has a +2. You may sacrifice a creature. If you do, search your library for a creature card with mana value equal to 1 plus the sacrifice creature's mana value. Put that onto the battlefield and then shuffle. She has a +1, mill 5 cards, then put any number of creature cards milled this way into your hand, and a -1. Create a 4/4 green Rhino Warrior creature token. You like how I had issues with the other ones because I don't give a shit about the +1 or the -1. I read the +2 and I was like,
you read the first plus ability and you were like, cool, a cube card, and you just didn't give a shit about the rest of the magic card.
It was like, I don't give a shit what else it does. It does what I want it to do.
So Vivian has the problem of she's a 6-drop pod, but you are activating as soon as you do it. So it's like paying and playing pod once.
And
if you're not sacrificing life.
She does have the -1 to make a 4/4. Like, that'll happen.
Which is a really fine stabilizing thing to do.
Yeah. So, like, honestly, I don't think I would recommend this, but
I would recommend it if you have a pod deck.
I'm going to push Brad to put it in his cube because I fucking love the card.
if you're already playing pod, you're playing Prime Speaker Vanifar, then Vivian on the Hunt slots right in.
Yep.
If you're not playing those, you don't really look at Vivian.
No.
There's 100 green planeswalkers at this point. Pick any of them, you're fine.
Yeah. There's enough other options that are going to be better just generically. But if you're doing
I
pod,
am all here.
Yeah.
All here for pod number 3. This is a perfect shining point in this set. It actually has a solid use.
Yeah.
It's interesting in certain cubes. I didn't have someone misread the card and have me put it on, and then I didn't read it until I was on air to look like a dipshit.
I do kind of wish that the +2, because this is a 6-drop, wouldn't have been equal to and would have been equal or less kind of thing.
Oh, so you could go down with it instead of always potting up.
Yeah.
I kind of don't, because I feel like it's against the spirit of the pod.
It is. It definitely is, which is why I'm perfectly okay with this. But it is one of those that, like, at 6, it's very possible that you've either used or drawn a certain hole in your curve, and you're just like, guess I can't go up. I have to do something else to get in there, you know?
I'm going to say that when you play her, there's going to be a legit portion of your games where she's salvaging your pod deck by spamming out her -1.
Yeah.
It's how pod decks go.
It is.
You know when you sign up for it.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
So I have a feeling she's going to get accidentally used as a spam -1 to keep creating rhinos.
Yeah. My engine isn't working as well as it should. Please save me.
It's not why you put her in the deck, but it's probably going to be something she does not so rarely.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's good. That's good. I'm a fan.
All right. I'm going to read Thragtusk because I'm familiar with the card.
Are you sure?
Workshop Warchief is 3 green for a 5/3 creature Rhino Warrior. It's got Trample. When Workshop Warchief enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. And when Workshop Warchief dies, create a 4/4 green Rhino Warrior creature token. And it's got Blitz for 4 green.
All right.
So because Blitz draws you a card, the Blitz mode on this is pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
And it's worth noting this isn't strictly worse than Thragtusk ignoring the Blitz because it also has Trample, which a lot of people seem to have missed. So yeah, you can't flicker it like you can with Thragtusk when that was the standard thing with it in Resto, but
I mean, that is still a thing to bring up.
It's basically a fixed Thragtusk, right?
it's fixed and it got some buffs in exchange.
Yeah.
Because we've moved past that in Magic since then. So it needed something.
Yeah, I like it. I don't see a reason not to put it in other than, like, if you're like, I've already got one boring mid-rangey insurance creature. I don't want a second one.
Yeah. And we have a decent number of options at that slot.
Yeah, you want your acidic slime variant. You want some type of biogenic ooze or consuming blob or one of those 5 other ones, paradox zone, eating up 1 or 2 of the slots. Then you've got deep forest hermit eating up a slot.
Right.
At a certain point, it gets really narrow for how many things after Thragtusk you need. So you may not need the second one, but it's cool to have it.
I'm a big fan. I really do like that Blitz, just because
the Blitz is very interesting this time.
Yeah, like it has trample, and you get to draw a card, you get the 4/4, 3 life. Like there's a lot happening for that 6 mana, and that's cool. Like that's actually really nice to have as a alternate mode kind of thing going on there.
All right, Eric, take us down the red carpet.
I guess we're on to Multicolor. So this is Ginny Faye, Jet Mirror's second. This is a hybrid red-green, and a hybrid green-white for a 3/3 legendary elf druid. If you would create 1 or more tokens, you may instead create that many 2/2 green cat creature tokens with haste, or that many 3/1 green dog creature tokens with vigilance. This is interesting. There's a lot of board states that I can think of, and it's like, wow, that's really cool. I want to do that. But then I remember this is on like a 3-drop 3/3.
Yeah, it's kind of my problem with it.
That's multicolor, sort of, but you can cast it for just green.
Yeah, for some reason.
It's interesting. Naya is notoriously bad.
Yeah.
She's got some very interesting interactions with things like Carry Zev, where you make a 3/1 that stays around instead of the monkey who disappears.
Right.
Ophiomancer with this is hilarious. Every turn get a 3/1. Every turn, not every your turn.
Right.
This with a Vivian on the hunt, you can -1 to make a 2/2 with haste or a 3/1 with vigilance.
Sure.
Yeah.
That seems pretty good.
I mean, you do bring up the fact that like a lot of planeswalkers have token generations, and most of them are 1/1s.
This also works crazy well with Angel of Invention.
Oh wow, yeah.
So this has a lot of play, and I can see this being someone's like top pick. It's definitely my favorite Naya card so far. I can't think of one I like better.
Yeah, and like the fact that you can legitimately play this, just because like the hybrid mana costs make this easy to play. Like you can just green, sure, or red, green. You know, like
green,
there's
white.
A lot of flexibility there into both what decks it can go into and what your mana curve is looking like what lands you played first and second and stuff like that.
And I think her being a quote unquote Naya card gets in the way of like, if her mana cost was just green, white, we'd still be looking at her and arguing her a bit.
Right.
It's the average case is good enough, like just looking at green and white and red tokens like Rabble Master. The average case is good enough that I don't see you arguing against her in like Gruul or Selesnya as being a solid pick. Maybe not your favorite one in the section.
I'm also a huge fan of the fact that it says May. Because like you bring up Rabble Master and I'm like, I don't know if I would want that. I like Rabble Master making his tokens because of Rabble Master.
Sure, fine. Whatever other Rabble Master, any Rabble Master except Rabble Master.
It's just one of those that like the May means that like you don't have to.
Yeah, and it's worth noting because of this not saying creature tokens, you may want your clue,
right?
Or you may want an actual creature out of the deal. This makes food cards not terrible.
I didn't realize it was non-creature tokens as well.
That's actually pretty big.
Anything that makes treasure or
Yes, treasure is the point of it in the set, obviously.
Thraben Inspector sounds great.
Oh wow, yeah.
So I do think this card is solid. Like a legit pick for your cube. Because when you think of it as like, at Naya, I'm not sure if it's worth. It's still like, it's an okay Gruul card. It's an okay Selesnya card. Green is rough. I would rather play it quote unquote as a Selesnya card at that point.
Right.
Because I'm
I
probably
think
playing a green-white deck anyway.
that's mostly where it's going to go, but like there's a decent number of tokens in red. So,
Yeah. So
yeah,
I like her.
Ginny Face seems legit.
Yeah.
Definitely
right,
by
well-
far the best Naya card. Like, not even
Yeah.
close. Not even fucking close.
I'll take the next one. Ob Nixilis the Adversary is 1 black-red for a 3 loyalty legendary Planeswalker Nixilis. Ob Nixilis has Casualty X. The copy isn't a legendary and has starting loyalty X. I hate that line.
Yeah.
He's got a +1 with each opponent loses 2 life unless they discard a card. If you control a demon or a devil, you gain 2 life. He's got a -2 with create a 1/1 red devil creature token with whenever this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. And a -7, which is target player draws 7 cards and loses 7 life. So Casualty X is the only reason this is even worth reading.
Yeah.
And I still think it's kind of meh.
I think it's cool, but I think we have enough better options in this guild doing this kind of thing. But I do really like the fact that the Casualty X means the +1 can be scary.
Yeah, and it is a card that more slots into the Aristocrats archetype than like, well, I would still argue Duretti does, but
Yeah.
we'll say it's more obviously part of that than Duretti is.
I guess. I would rather have Duretti in that deck, but
I agree. I disagree with that, but it's something that gets brought up. I don't think Ob Nixilis is great, and I especially think because most of the time you're going to be casualty something. I fucking hate casualty as a mechanic word, by the way. One of my many rants with this set I'm avoiding to keep
Yeah.
this episode going. But
yeah, I'm with you.
yeah, the copy is only going to have 1 or 2 loyalty to start with, and you're probably going to have this Ob Nixilis go down, so the other one goes up, and
I don't
maybe
know
you
about
just-
that. I think there's a certain point where you have 2 of these and you're just plussing.
Yeah,
They don't get a
sure.
hand, and eventually they start killing the opponent.
Yeah, at a certain point, is it worth it?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of an archetype that you can support, but it's pretty bad generally.
And we're assuming at that point that you had something to sacrifice to this to make it worth it in the first place.
Right.
Which we all know in real life, board states are never perfect when we want to play our cards.
Yeah.
This card has terrible bad cases.
Mhm.
The fact that it's a -2 to make a 1/1, I get it has the devil text on it, which is I do like that, but like -2.
I think that was done specifically for standard. This may have been -1 at one point in testing, and they went, nope.
It's possible, but dude, like in cubes, that's not getting there.
No, I'm very iffy on Ob Nixilis. I didn't even have us read Elspeth, who's like the generic 53rd 5-drop white planeswalker
Yeah.
who's mediocre.
Yeah, if you wanted Elspeth, like whatever, go for it. It's not gonna be bad, but
Ob Nixilis is at least, he's an interesting one. I could see why you would want to try him.
yeah,
I would still have trouble finding any slot for him in a Rakdos section, even if I'm hard into Aristocrats, which I am.
well, I think
I'm
you really
iffy on
have to
him.
go into the more like Pox style decks.
Even there, it's wrong because you're probably not going to have the creature.
That's true. You run out of, you don't have the creatures and like that. Yeah, it's tough, dude. It's tough. I actually kind of like the card. Like it's interesting to me, but I'm with you. I'm not seeing where it's actually working out in cubes.
All right, Christian, I'm sorry. We had to talk for a while there. We had a whole 6 cards without you. Would you like to continue talking?
Yeah, so here's like a multicolored card that I get to talk about. This is Rocco, Cabaretti Caterer. The mana cost on this is X red, green, white. So set of Naya and then X. It's a 3/1 uncommon legendary creature, Elf Druid. When this enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you may search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. This card is interesting because it can act as a creature tutor for the Persist combo deck while remaining in those like most common colors that the deck tends to exist in. But the body it provides isn't really all that impressive. So the question begins to be like, would I rather just play Worldly Tutor? You know what I mean? And I think I'd just rather play Worldly Tutor.
That's not a great spot,
No.
honestly. Like, that's not a great spot.
Yeah. I mean, I saw a couple people bring this up. And I also thought about it on my own a little bit because it's enticing, right? But then you think about the scenarios that you come into and you're like, wow, this could tutor for a creature. So could tutors. I could just play one of those. It doesn't have to cost 6 mana.
Yeah, I don't have to be stuck in 9
Yeah.
with a shitty 3/1
Exactly.
attached to it.
So, yeah, not really for me. But if you want to try it, I guess go for it.
All right, Christian, read the next one.
To finish off multicolored, we've got Tainted Indulgence. Blue and a...
These look like great drinks, dude.
They do, yeah. Tainted Indulgence is blue and a black for an uncommon instant. Draw 2 cards, then discard a card unless there are 5 or more mana values among cards in your graveyard. Sure. I don't think I'd want to devote a Dimir slot to this effect, but the rate is fine.
And this was kind of my thought on it. I saw people bringing it up as like a boring but okay card for peasant stuff.
We don't need that, though. We've got exciting stuff.
That was my thought.
Yeah, I was like, don't you have solid options?
Who's going to waste a Dimir slot on draw 2, discard 1? Because you're always discarding 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like
is draw 2, discard 1.
We have Discovery Dispersal already. I'm willing to put that in my Dimir slot. Because, and I mean, that's better than this, right?
It's easier.
By my count, yeah, I like Discovery better by a long shot.
Yeah.
Hybrid, plus you get the dispersal side if you really, really care about that aspect. Like, it's, I don't know. And plus it's Surveil 2 draw card, which I think is better. Maybe?
It's pretty 50-50, but it's so much easier to cast. Who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I saw it getting brought up, but
it's not like it's a bad card. Like, Tainted Intelligence is a fine card. It's just like, I don't...
If this were blue and a colorless, or black and a colorless, I'd be like, okay, let's talk about where this could fit in.
If this was black and a colorless, yeah.
Yeah, fair, yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, because it's both colors, it takes up a different slot in the cube, and I'm just not willing to give up one of those slots for this effect.
All right, Eric, let's get into Colorless here. All of our mentions for the rest of this are super quick.
Yeah, pretty much. We're actually almost done here.
Luxior Gyara's Gift is a single mana for a legendary artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each counter on it. Equipped permanent isn't a planeswalker and is a creature in addition to its other types. Equip planeswalker for 1 and equip 3. Brad, what are your thoughts on this card? Because I don't really care. I mean, it's kind of like the combo aspect.
So the real reason to bring it up is it does make infinite mana with Devoted Druid. It's something that you could be putting in if you're trying to abuse that, like if you're trying to do some type of combo stuff with that.
I just don't think that's necessary in that deck. Like, unless you're like a full combo cube and you just need as much density as possible. Like, there's enough creature parts that do the job, in my opinion, that we don't need an equipment.
To me, the interesting part is looking at like the Royal Scions, a card you're a huge fan of.
I do love that card.
If you're playing a type of very low creature count, planeswalkers and spells galore type control deck, it's interesting if it's able to give you like, because Scions comes down and goes up to 6. And then next turn is basically going to go up to 7 no matter what. So if the turn after you play Scions, you bump them up to 7 and you go, you know what? Using that activation twice is good enough. Try to beat a 7/7.
Right.
Meh.
It's okay. I saw other people bring it up. That's kind of my defense for it right there. I don't think it's great by any means, but if someone is like, oh man, this is the weird thing that's right up my alley,
right,
then I could see you going for it.
Yeah, I could absolutely see
I'm not going to be playing this unless someone tells me otherwise, but it's neat.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a neat card. I'm all aboard that, but
in the same deck, I think one of the best uses for this is Saheeli.
Right.
Saheeli Sublime Artificer is not caring that it's a Planeswalker at all. You don't use the Planeswalker ability on it. Yeah. So it just becomes a 5/5 for 3.
You can just...
But it also does unlock, like, the fact that they can kill it.
Sure.
Also, it's not a 5/5 for 3. It's a 5/5 for 5.
But you get what I mean.
Yeah.
The card was 3, but the equip is... Yeah.
Yeah.
I do wish the card itself, if this equipment gave something that wasn't just transforming the creature, I can't see you using it legitimately under any circumstances. You're only using the Planeswalker thing, or you're making infinite mana off Devoted Druid as a one-off combo thing.
Yeah, which, I mean, might be enough, but doesn't really interest me.
Again, quick mention, this set ain't got much in it. We might as well talk about everything.
That's fair.
I think you've got an equipment to talk about.
I do. This is a very interesting one, actually. This is Quick Draw Dagger, another common. 3 mana for an artifact equipment. It has Flash. It has, when this enters the battlefield, attach it to target creature you control. That creature gains first strike until end of turn. And it gives the equipped creature +1/+1 as the normally equipped cost of just 1. So it's pretty rare. I mean, for me, I know you all get things that do this, but it's rare for an equipment to also act as a combat trick for me. You all have things like that red one, 4-drop or whatever it is, that's like good.
Embercleave?
Embercleave, yeah.
How?
No, it's just, I'm saying it's an equipment that has combat trick potential. That's what I'm getting at.
Fair enough.
That's all I'm saying for a comparison there. You all get cards like that, whereas we don't. So an equipment that has combat trick potential is a draw for me already. But here we are. I think that that novelty is enough to like make me want to try it out. At least for while I'm pushing artifact aggro. I think that, it just becomes a short sword after you get that first effect off of it. But I kind of like that you get that first kind of got him moment, and then you're like, anyway, I now have the short sword that I can kind of swap around in my artifact aggro deck. I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting.
I do worry that 3 is a bit too much even for that combat trick, but it's one of those, it's possible, it's good enough that you'd need play. Like, it's close enough that I can't say either way.
Yeah.
But
I'm not saying that this is bonkers or anything like that. Much like Brad just said, there's only so many cards in this set, so we're going to talk about the ones that are worth talking about.
That's fair.
But yeah, it's a unique effect from me.
All right, let's finish this up. Unlicensed Hearse gets a quick shout out. It's 2 mana for a star artifact vehicle. It has tap, exile up to 2 target cards from a single graveyard. Unlicensed Hearse power and toughness are equal to the number of cards exiled with it, and it has crew too. So the vehicle portion of this card is flavor text. Everything about it.
It's a nice little bonus to the fact that the primary mode is the exile thing, but like,
I don't think you're ever going to turn this into a creature.
No.
Like 1 in 50 games. Because the math is horrible on it. So you're going to play it out and use it for graveyard hate. And the average graveyard is going to only get you a single card off of it. Maybe 2. Once you start activating it, it gets harder to activate. It's probably going to be turn 5 or 6 before this thing is anything relevant, and then it's just a vanilla creature you have to tap 2 power to activate.
That's true, yeah.
It's very mediocre in anything except for being Grave Hate. It is probably the best Grave Hate in Cube. The best cube-oriented Grave Hate. I'll put it that way. There's better Grave Hate cards, but like...
This is nice for recursion over the game to handle instead of like it's a constructed format. I have to deal with it once and they're fucked.
Yeah, I'm not going to run Rip in a cube. Like, unless we're running a combo cube.
Yeah, I was like, Rip Helm. Let's go.
Yeah, sure. If we're running a combo cube, sure, but I'm not going to run Rip in your average cube. If you've wanted Graveyard Hate for some reason before, I've never wanted it in my cube specifically. Scoos and the like do the job just fine. But if you're looking for a Grave Hate card, this would be the one I would recommend to you.
I do think it's possibly worth bringing up the fact that there has been a trend towards trying out double fetch in unpowered cubes. And if you're running double fetch, there's a little bit more things going to the grave. That's all I'm pointing out.
Even there, that's a fine, like, sometimes, but I still think the vanilla creature you're tapping 2 power for, it had to be up at like 7/7 or more before I start giving a shit about it.
Yeah, and then again, it's still just a vanilla. Like, it doesn't have evasion. It doesn't have.
Yeah, it's minimum 3 full, good, solid activations. Realistically, 4 to 5 realistic activations before this thing starts to feel like a solid upgrade.
Okay.
It's mostly, again, this is just a Grave Hate card. All right, I will finish up what we're going to talk about.
Sure.
We've got 5 Tri-lands you know the Tri-lands. They were added in Ikoria. We got the other half of them now. They're Jetmir's Garden, Rafine's Tower, Sparara's Headquarters, Xander's Lounge, Ziatora's Proving Ground. These names suck ass and mean they're going to be impossible for you to ever get again, just like the first half of the Triomes. Buy them while they're $2 because they're going to become $15+ randomly in a few years.
And I mean, it's just great to have the full set because they're solid options.
No one has said bad things about the Triomes being bad. It's either people love them and think they're fantastic, or people think they do something unhealthy for their format. That's the review. So probably pick them up.
But I think Christian's got a few lands that he wants to talk about before we get out of here.
I have 10 lands that I'm going to talk about.
Let's go.
So I've got 2 cycles of lands here. First, we've got a set of dual lands. These are Botanical Plaza, Racer's Ring, Skybridge Towers, Tramway Station, and Waterfront District. These are all lands with no basic types or anything like that. They enter the battlefield tapped. They can tap for one of 2 colors. These are all allied, correct? Yeah, they're allied duels. And they all have an activated ability, which is a little expensive. 2, and then their 2 colors. So we'll start with Botanical Plaza here. 2 green, white, tap, and sacrifice, draw a card. These are all common dual lands, so you're not expecting to get something crazy out of these. I think, honestly...
Yeah, but that beats Gates and stuff, which are commons. These are solid.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's why I'm bringing them up. If it weren't as good as Gates, it wouldn't be worth discussing. I mean...
Right.
For people who aren't running rare lands in their peasant or pauper cubes, then these probably do seem interesting. Yeah. And I think what's also worth bringing up is that non-rare land bases tend to offer slower formats in general, and slower formats are where these kinds of lands will tend to flourish. So, I mean, I don't think I have any need for these, but, I have a different environment, so to speak. So if you are not allowing yourself to run rare lands, then you might want to take a look at these. I do wish that we had all 10, but that's how everyone feels about lands, right?
Yeah. I do think that some of them will play better than others. Like
that's also true.
The white-blue one is going to be better just because of how those decks generally come together.
Versus like the red-black one.
Yeah, you're not going to be using that often.
Yeah, so it's one of those that like it's possible that like if you have a good land base that you're happy with, maybe look at some of the slower colors just because these might be better than what you have right now. But whatever. Like, it's cool. They seem solid for being common.
Yeah. The other half cycle is another new half cycle here. These are also all common. These are Broker's Hideout, Cabaret Courtyard, Maestro's Theater, Obscura Storefront, and Riveteer's Overlook. All of these do the same thing for 3 different... they're all shards. Yes? Okay,
yes.
Sorry. I always have to ask because I don't want to say the wrong thing, you know what I mean? Get people all confused.
Yeah.
So...
That would be embarrassing if you constantly called wedges shards or shards wedges.
Yeah, reminder text. So Broker's Hideout is the one we'll use for this example. Broker's Hideout, it's a common land. When it enters the battlefield, you sacrifice it. When you do, search your library for a basic forest, plains, or island, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle, and you gain 1 life. So these act as almost like a more specific Evolving Wilds. You don't get to do any weird shenanigans with it where you're waiting for some reason to activate it. You just activate it right away, and you get a little bit of incidental life gain.
Fuck, it has to be a basic.
Oh yeah, it's a basic, of course. Oh my god.
Damn.
Did you think these were fetch lands?
I mean, they do the tapped thing, so it wouldn't matter.
I guess.
Yeah.
I guess.
They'd still be worse than Terramorphic in some cases.
Yeah.
But
I do think these will... Actually, I think these will probably play better than the lands that we just mentioned in general. But, like, if you want these kinds of cards in your cube. I think they're cool, but I'm also a sucker for incidental life gain. I mean, so, like...
I think anybody who's not playing rare lands should look at the
absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
Yes. Very fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just saying, like, they're not stellar.
No.
But it's a common.
They're probably pretty close to... there was another set of these that didn't quite work like this, right? But they were they from Shards block, maybe? I don't know. I don't play with those lands, so they're not really at the forefront of my mind. But
The panoramas, holy shit, that just unlocked.
Yeah, the panoramas. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like in the corner of my mind, and you just fucking. Oh,
Those were slightly different. I don't quite remember how those worked.
they were terrible
okay.
back then. They could tap for a mana, and you could pay 1 and tap it and sack it to get Shard of Basics.
That's what it was.
Still comes into play tapped, even though you had to pay a mana.
Oh no.
Yeah. Like those were
Okay.
Those were bad. These new ones
Those were never good.
These new ones are substantially better.
Okay, well, hey, that's promising. Again, if you are playing with non-rare lands, give them a shot. I'm sure they're going to be totally fine. And these,
Definitely.
like I said, I think these will be a little bit splashier, play a little bit better than the other 5 here. But, I mean, you're probably going to want to try out all of them. So, frickin' go for it, dude.
All right. That wraps up hot takes / first impressions for New Capenna.
There were some decent cards, I guess.
There were.
Yeah.
It was not a 0 set. I just am not happy about the set in general.
It's like the best pauper set that we've had since maybe a Modern Horizons set.
And I think that's the angle we could use to say something positive about it.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Big fan of that. Let's go. More of that.
Absolutely.
And we got our short hot takes we've wanted for so long.
This is going to be edited down probably to under 2 hours. Can you believe that?
It's
crazy,
insane.
dog.
All right. Let's hit the outro.
Sounds
Let's
good.
do it.